Bet the Breeders' Cup with the DRF app. The Daily Racing Form app is a highly rated, powerful tool that makes handicapping and wagering fast and easy, putting you in position to win big at the races. Register today to double your first deposit up to $250. Get the DRF app now.
Hi, and welcome to a preview of the international participants in the Friday Breeders' Cup races. I'm Marcus Hersh. I'm with Steve Andersen, who covers racing the world over and knows his European form as well as anyone I know. We're going to run through these Friday races with international participants, starting with the Juvenile Turf Sprint Race 6. This race has been very popular with overseas horses. I think they've roughly halved the contingent from previous years, probably in great part because they haven't had a lot of success, particularly last season. Steve, I think the issue that the European horses run into in this race is the turn that they run into after going down the backstretch. Most of the European sprint races are run down straight courses, and these 2-year-olds, many of them have no experience whatsoever going around a turn.
Certainly not in a race. They may try to train for it, to any certain extent, but when you get into the actual contest and you're facing American horses who only know this sort of racing and for the most part haven't been down a straightaway track with the rare exception of a European shipper, it's advantage USA, and I agree with you. It's the draw is vital, and the knowledge of a jockey from foreign shores about riding an American turf sprint is key as well. So I think this is one of those circumstances where they may be at a slight disadvantage.
Yeah, we've got just the 3 Mighty Gurkha drawn on the rail with Holly Doyle, who I believe is having her first American ride, unless I missed something, and then Lip is Honor for the Coolmore Connections in 3. And then out in 6, You Better Believe It. Yeah, You Better Believe It. The Jim Crack is a throwout race. It was run in a driving rainstorm, and the turf is listed as good, but I think it turned worse than that. The trainer, Nigel Tinkler, called the course horrific. He also said, and you can see this if you watch the race, that this horse didn't settle in that race the way he had before. He pulled harder than he had, and the jockey just eased up on him when he was clearly beaten. I mean, I don't have a problem drawing a line through it. And that horse he beat in the Flying Child or Sacred is decent. I'd be surprised if this horse is good enough to beat the horse that I think is easily the most likely winner, Golden Pal. But I do think that he could get into the top 3 with luck. Next up, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, a horse in which overseas runners have had a lot of success, and there are several, and I think several strong possibilities here in this 1-mile turf race. We've got, let's see, Seal Away, number 1, New Mandate, number 2, Cadillac, number 5, Battleground, number 9, and then out on the outside, Go Atletico 10, Go Atletico 12, Devil Walla 13, the Learjet 14. That's a lot to consider. What have you sized up about this large contingent of Europeans in the juvenile turf, Steve?
When you look past Gretzky the Great, who's doing very well up in Canada, the European runners deserve significant respect. Particularly New Mandate and Battleground are 2 that I settled on as being the leading contenders among the group. Although you can make a case for several others. New Mandate is really going nicely. He's had 3 in a row. He's kind of worked his way up the ranks in a nursery handicap, and then a nice little race on the same day as at September 11th at Doncaster, and then came up in the Royal Lodge Stakes and won again. So they've done everything. He's done everything asked of him in his last 3 starts. Moving forward, and I think that progression can continue here. Now, whether it's good enough to win against Gretzky the Great, who I quite fancy a lot, is hard to tell. This guy is a horse who's New Mandate is capable of being near the front. He had a little bit of a bad start last time, so obviously the first furlong is going to be key here because, again, as we talked about with the juvenile turf sprint, we're looking at a big field, and you want to get as good a position as you can in that first little bit of the race to make sure that you're not compromised in the second half of the field. So I do like New Mandate, but the start's going to be key for him. Battleground, trained by Aidan O'Brien. Now, this is a horse who was also going in the right direction. He won the Chesham at Royal Ascot, which is a unique race in the sense that it's 7 furlongs for horses. If I remember correctly, all their stallions have to have won 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 or up in order to get into the field. So it's kind of a different kind of restricted race. Well, he followed that up with a nice win at Goodwood, going 7 furlongs in the Group 2 Vintage Stakes. 2-length winner under Ryan Moore is the 8-5 favorite. and another horse that can kind of be pretty handy. So I expect him to be in the first flight of runners, maybe second through fifth or so, but maybe 2 lengths, 3 lengths off the pace. And he's drawn fairly well in 9. I thought New Mandate was drawn just a little bit better in down in post 2. He's going to have to scoot out of there and get some position. But this Battleground, watch out for him. I think he's got a big chance from post 9.
Yeah, I like him too. People may be wondering why he hasn't raced since July. He was supposed to run in September, and he reportedly coughed. Well, I mean, reported by the trainer. He said he coughed and had to be scratched. And then, he won over soft at Ascot, but he traveled over better turf at Goodwood, where I thought I was really impressed just with the way he went. That probably wasn't the best vintage ever. The horses coming out of there, I don't think it was a terrible field, not exceptional though. But then they seem to think that he wants a firmer surface, and there was so much rain all over England, Ireland, and France. Almost all the races in the fall were run on very soft or heavy courses, and supposedly I think that they decided they were just going to miss all of that stuff and just point for this race. I remember after the Dewhurst in October, people were asking O'Brien which of these horses might come for the Breeders' Cup, and he kind of, in his subtle way, nixed all of them and mentioned this horse's name. And so you get the sense that they've really targeted this race with Battleground all along. Since you talked about New Mandate, who I don't mind at all, and I think he's a horse to consider using prominently. The other two major ones for me, and I picked this one on top, Cadillac, for Jessica Harrington. Actually think that he's done very little wrong in his career. He has 2 wins and 2 defeats. So his 2 wins were on the left-handed course at Leopardstown. So when he ran around a turn, he did better. But when he was defeated at the Curragh in the Futurity Stakes, he was beaten a half length by Max Swinney, who then he won the Vertem Futurity over heavy ground at Doncaster, a Group 1 in England in October. So that form worked out pretty well. And then he was back on the straight in the Dewhurst. I think that any of the top 3 home there, St. Mark's Basilica, Wembley, and Thunder Moon, would all be considered formidable in this race. I also don't think that he loved the soft ground and he didn't have that clean of a run. I'm looking for him to take up a somewhat prominent position and really give a good account of himself. And Seal Away is a little bit difficult. He and Go Atletico faced each other twice and actually traded decisions. And then out of the blue, in the Jean-Luc Lagardère on the ARC undercard, Seal Away ran this incredible race. His time, considering the conditions, the heavy course was very strong, and his ratings are comparable. They reflect that. He won by 8 lengths. I mean, it was just such an outlier performance. It's hard to know. He's not going to win this race by 8 lengths, but he may have just definitely improved through the year too. So I think his baseline probably lies somewhere between that race and his others, which I think puts him in the mix. He's kind of a handy horse. I think he'll be able to work out a trip from the rail. But to me, I don't know about you, Steve, but I mean, you did mention Gretchen the Great. I'm not as high on him as you are. I had Europeans in the top 4, and I'm going to expect them to be very prominent.
One more thought about Cadillac. Shane Foley was second in the Irish Jockey flat standings to Colin Keane. So they both had good years, and they're both riding the Breeders' Cup this weekend. So a check mark next to Cadillac in regards to the jockey booking. Jessica Harrington has him on all 3 of her horses that she's brought over for the weekend.
That's right. And he is on Udnadada, who is the first horse we can mention in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf Race 9. Another race with a significant European presence. In addition to her, there's number 2, Miss Amulet, number 6, Nazuna, number 8, Mother Earth, and then, Campanelle, number 10, who has made her last 2 starts in Europe, but is an American-based horse with trainer Wesley Ward. Why don't we start with that one, Steve, to get her out of the way? What are your feelings about Campanelle? To me, her quality is evident. She's, to me, the most talented horse in the race. I really thought she ran well Nando Parado, that was the horse that ran second to Seal Away in the Jean-Luc Lagardère. So the Prix Mornay has some good form out of it. Even though none of the horses coming back have won. I see people keep mentioning that, but you don't have to have a bunch of winners to have a decent field. And she was able to overcome soft turf and was pulling away at the end of that straight course 6 furlongs. I guess the big question is, will she stretch out to a mile?
Wesley Ward insists in conversation in the last month that she will. I think she's got every chance to. What surprises me was that even though there's a very nice group of Europeans here, I picked 4 domestic horses for in my top selections.
Wow.
I know I was kind of surprised when I settled on that. I went, well, this is what I think. I think Madoni's very good, and Aunt Pearl is excellent, who won at Keeneland. But with Campanelle, there's nothing to really fault. She won that 18-runner Queen Mary in her first stakes over in Ascot in June, came back to United States for a month or so, went back to France, and she won by 2 lengths, like you mentioned in the Prix Mornay, but Dettori was barely riding her at the wire. She was clear. I am a little discouraged that there hasn't been more come out of that race, although Nando Parado, as you mentioned, did run well. But I'm just a little bit skeptical of the distance. I guess I'll get the verdict at the 8th pole, whether Campanelle's in front or if she's fading through a very good field. But I respect her, but I'm opposing her nonetheless. I had to go in a different direction here.
Oh, okay. You don't like any of these other horses. Udnadada didn't catch your fancy.
I loved Udnadada till she drew the rail. I was really excited about her. I thought she finished behind Pretty Gorgeous, who came back to win the Fillies mile at Newmarket. That was in October, and Udnadada was third to her, third in the same race as her rather, in the Moigler stud. I think she's moving in the right direction, Udnadada. I was just when the draw came out, I went, nope, that's it. I just don't think she can win from there. She's going to have to be doing too much to come around a very good group of runners.
Yeah, I think that she could take up a decent position. And I say that because in her first race, she broke well and went straight to the front and led all the way. Obviously, this is going to be a faster, maybe it's not obvious. I suspect it's going to be a considerably faster pace than it was that day. So I certainly don't think that she's going to be leading. However, if she does break decently and she can show some positional speed, I think she could work out an okay trip. But as you say, there are a bunch of horses that are going to be pressing down on her from the outside, and it's going to take plenty of racing luck. I do think that she's a horse with some upside who's going to travel pretty well on a good turf course and probably be okay going around the turns. I mean, Miss Amulet, the 2 horses run some nice races. I don't like her chances of getting a 2-turn mile really that much at all. I guess you don't either. Or it's something you don't like about her because you didn't mention her.
No, I respect her, but again, I think she's got more 6 furlong form. She did run fairly well in the Shively Park, going uphill at the finish at Newmarket in 6 furlongs. You can't underestimate that benefit. But no, and I'm just against her because I just preferred others. It wasn't a matter of voting no; it was a matter of voting for others.
Right, and Nizuna ran against Isabella Giles, who was a very well fancied in the Shively Park, and then was basically eased out of the race. So I don't know exactly what to make of that, but I didn't see enough from Nizuna to make me think that she could be competitive in this kind of field.
Well, but in her first race she was off slow, and in her most recent race she was off slow again. First and fourth months.
Yeah, the Dwelt I thought was a little bit strong. She just broke a step slow, but even that is going to put her. She can't. I mean, she would have to do everything right to have a chance. And then the last one, Mother Earth. It's like a typical O'Brien sort of thing. They keep giving these horses chances. I mean, look at all the races she's had already, and she's done so many different things. They've put her on the lead. They had her in behind. It looked like she wasn't going anywhere career-wise until the Fillies mile went out of the blue. She suddenly showed a pretty nice turn of foot and ran easily the best race of her season. Now, that was soft ground, a straight course. I don't know how much you can put into it, but I did think that the spark that she showed in that race finally, that led to her coming over here, was enough to make me at least mildly curious about her chances.
And I'm with you. I'm curious to see it. Remarkably, Aidan O'Brien's never won this race, and it hasn't been for a lack of trying.
All right, well, that's a look at all the European horses in a fine day of Breeders' Cup Friday racing, which you can watch and wager on at DRF Bets. Got a lot of decent opinions there. Hope yours are good, and best of luck.
Bet the Breeders' Cup with the DRF app. The Daily Racing Form app is a highly rated, powerful tool that makes handicapping and wagering fast and easy, putting you in position to win big at the races. Register today to double your first deposit up to $250. Get the DRF app now.